Hello, welcome back to the Open Polkadot Bootcamp. In the last video, we already learned about the cumulus and how you can turn your solo chain node and runtime to a Parachain node and runtime using the cumulus as the Parachain SDK. Today we're gonna learn how that you can run a collator node for your Parachain and also how that Parachain can connect to a Relaychain. In this video, we also cover the POP CLI and how you can use the POP CLI to speed up the process of running a local Relaychain network. Let's revisit all the needed steps that we require to have the Parachain working. So we have the configure substrate runtime and node, and we already walk through the Parachain from scratch code base. I already also attach that Parachain from scratch code base in the guidebook. So you just visit that Parachain from scratch repository and then work on your own. And I think there's all the instruction already quite clear, and I think we don't need to work on it in the videos. So now we're gonna visit repair a local Relaychain and connect a Parachain to a Relaychain. This material following the official documentations of substrate. So as you can see right here, we have the repair a local Relaychain, connect a local Parachain, acquire testnet slot, open message passing channel, transfer asset with XCMs. We're gonna cover the transfer asset with XCMs in the section 10, so we don't have it here. And also we have the HRMD, which is quite interesting. But we're gonna cover the first three things and also HO call times at the additional sections. Now we're gonna visit the repair local Relaychain sections. In this tutorial, we're gonna learn how to configure a local Relaychain. The local Relaychain is required to set up a local testing environment that a test Parachain node can connect to. This is actually not a real Relaychain, but it has all the functionality of the Relaychain. To create a local Relaychain, it requires a binary code of the full Polkadot SDK, and we're gonna work through what you need and also the requirement for your local machine to support the local Relaychain. So before you begin, consider the following. Though it is not a strict prerequisite, it's recommended that you first learn how to generate a train spec for a private network of a trusted validator as described in these sessions. I think we haven't covered this in any of the videos in this bootcamp, but we're gonna go to a bit later in these videos about the train spec and how you can generate it. So before you begin, verify the following. You have configured your environment for substrate development, familiar with Polkadot architecture and terminology. We're also very familiar with that already. Aware that Parachain versions and dependency are tightly coupled with the Relaychain that connect to. So this also related to the Polkadot SDK version sections. I think we made a video about that in this bootcamp as well. It's in the section 6 as I remember. So if you haven't visited that video yet, so make sure that you already finish the video first to understand how the version management in substrate works and how you can also upgrade or downgrade your code base to maybe compatible with the code base of the Relaychain. It's gonna help your life much better during this journey learning substrate. So the tutorial objective gonna include set up your Parachain build environment, repair a local Relaychain specifications, and start a Relaychain locally. So the first one will be build the Relaychain node. The Polkadot is a substrate-based Relaychain, so therefore this tutorial uses code for the Polkadot repository. This one asks you to install the Polkadot SDK, and you go to the GitHub, and this is the Polkadot SDK that we need to install. So to install this, you just simply git clone the command, and then you click git clone this repository. In my case over here, I'm already in my local Polkadot SDK at branch staple 2407. This is the latest version of the Polkadot SDK. And you can see here's the structure of the Polkadot SDK similar to the GitHub that we see. Our step gonna be cargo build release. This gonna build the binary for the Polkadot Relaychain, and this cargo build release gonna take you a while, maybe around 50 minutes to 20 minutes. And make sure your local device gonna have up to 100 GB left to support this binary. So for the sake of just guiding you through the process of all these repair local Relaychain, I think it's not necessary to build this node because building this node is also take a lot of time, and my local machine right now is not well repaired to support this binary of the Polkadot SDK. But basically after you have that, you're gonna go to the target release and also select the Polkadot binary and run release, and then you're gonna have the Polkadot Relaychain running following the guide. So we're gonna revisit the guide. So as you can see right here, after you building, you're gonna have the Polkadot binary, so that you can also run the command similar to you run the command of the Parachain. Then in the Relaychain specifications, so every substrate-based chain requires chain spec. The chain specifications for the Relaychain network provide the same type of configuration setting that the chain specification does for other network. So many of the settings in the chain specification file are critical for the network operation. So for example, the chain specification identify the peers that participate in the network, keys for the validators, the default balances of all the accounts, boot node addresses, and other information as well, depending on your configuration to the chain spec. And over here we have an example of the chain spec in Rococo local testnet. So in this Rococo local testnet, you can it has the boot node. Basically, all these are automatically generated to code, and we're gonna see that when we generate a chain spec for the Parachain. None of these are written manually. And you can also define the protocol ID. This one is basically required for the Parachain. For the Relaychain, especially the Polkadot, this is gonna be default to dot for the local testnet Relaychain. And you can also have the genesis and the runtime. So right here you see there's a code, system code. This one is the set code, the well-known key that we already learned before about the substrate storage. And this code is basically store the hexadecimal forms of the WebAssembly blob. This one quite long because it's basically store all the binary of the runtimes to compile the WebAssembly blob. So you see it's quite long. So all these hexadecimal data are going to be passed into the WebAssembly executor, and then execute the logic of the runtime to for the state transitions. And then you have babe. So this babe is the block production mechanisms that we already learned in the path of preparation block. And babe gonna also have some configuration like the authorities that's gonna participate to the babe algorithms to generate to produce the new block. Also you have the balances. It's the default account. So this one gonna be Alice, Bob, Charlie, Dave, Freddie. So these are default account, and also their default balances of all these account, because you also want some default accounts, and then the user can use this account to test the network. For the sections, you also have some section keys for the rent para babe, and also order palette as well. These are some entities, some key entity of your Parachain network that is gonna be initialized on Genesis. Then you also have the configurations for the Parachain with the HRMB channel. We already mentioned about the HRMB. This is going to be cover more about the transport protocol in the XCM videos. Which HRMB is basically a transport protocol that allows two Parachains to connect together. And then you also have the PVF, the Parachain validation functions, checking enable. They also other configuration as well. Then you also have the number of Parachain. This one is default Parachain of the Relaychain, whether you want to specify it or not. And the version of the XCM palette, and also the sudo key. And in the official documentation, you can also find all the steps that you require to start the Relaychain node. Here you download one of the chain spec, the raw chain specification file, similar to the one that we just opened. And then in the second step, you can start the first validator using the Alice account by running the following command. This command lets me break it out. So here you specify the binary of the Polkadot Relaychain. Then you use the account Alice, also validators. You specify this node gonna be the validator, and this node gonna use the key of the Alice. Then you have the base part that this base part gonna specify where you store all the data of this validator node. So this chain spec we just install in step 1, and also the RPC port of the Relaychain. Then after running, you're gonna see this message local node identity is. So here's the address of the node. Then you open the validator, and then you want to start the second node. Here you start the node using the account Bob. This is also the validator node, and other configuration is also the same, but with different port. After you running this command, two Polkadot Relaychain node gonna connect to each other as the P2P network. And now these are two validator node. And now we can move to the another section to run the local node, local Parachain node, and gonna see how this look like in real code. To connect a local Parachain, we're gonna like follow this step in the tutorial objective. The first one gonna be like compile a local Parachain node, and then we reserve a unique identifier with the local Relaychain for the Parachain to use. Then like configure a chain specification for the Parachain. Export the runtime and genesis state of the Parachain and start the local Parachain and see that it connects to the local Relaychain. And before you begin, make sure you already follow repair local Relaychain. So first step would be like build the Parachain template. And as always, we're gonna open terminals, and also here let's clone the one of the Parachain template or the substrate developer hub substrate Parachain template. But in my case, I already have one of the Parachain generated by the PopsUI. In case you missed that, so you just install it on PopsUI GitHub, and then after you having this UI installed on your local machine, then you can run pop new, and when you run pop new, it allow you to select a few commands like pop new Parachain, pop new palette, or pop new contract. So you can pop new Parachain to create a new Parachain, and you can also select a template provider. Let's say I'm gonna choose pop, and then template gonna be the standard Parachain or Parachain configurer with the fungible and non-fungible asset functionality. Or if you want a Parachain to have the ability to execute any smart contract written in WebAssembly, can be compiled to WebAssembly, you can definitely do the contract Parachain. Or if you want your Parachain to configure with the Frontier and enabling the compatibility with the Ethereum virtual machine EVM, simply speaking, that is allow you to execute any smart contract written in Solidity or any kind of contract that can be compiled to EVM by code. So let's say if I choose EVM, and then I can also choose the version of the Polkadot SDK. Then I can also choose Polkadot stable 2407. Then specify the path I'm gonna call it EVM Parachain. So and also you gonna specify what is the symbol of the Parachain token and how many token decimal you can have. What is the initial endowment for the dev account, and waiting for a while it's gonna generate the Parachain code base. So here you can see it's generate the complete the generation complete. And next step is gonna cd to the EVM Parachain and pop up Parachain with the network tom. Check out all the code base we have here. We have the EVM Parachain already generated. So you go to the EVM Parachain, you're gonna see this code base of the EVM Parachain. For my case, I already build one node for my Parachain. This one is just an asset Parachain, and it's not an EVM Parachain. This is also the Parachain that we use for our video before. Your first step could be run pop build run, or you can simply run cargo build release. These are actually the same, pop build or pop build /r, pop build -r, basically cargo build hyphen release. So after you run that command, you're gonna see there's a binary of the Parachain template node, and here you can run the dev, and when you run the dev, you're gonna see it's collating the block. This one is just simply a single Parachain node and doesn't connect to any extra node. And right here I also have two terminal instances. We're gonna see how we can run two peer node, and then these two peer node can connect on local. So over here I have one node run with Alice, and it specified the RPC port 9944 and also the port 30,333 with Alice as the account, and also run in the dev mode. So when you run in the dev mode, it's gonna enable the local peer discovery, and then gonna run the first node. After running the first node, you're gonna see it's collating the block and taking a while for it to generate a block. And as you can see right here, the number of peer gonna be 0 peers. There are no peers for the Relaychain. These Parachains have also the 0 peer, and now we're gonna make that 0 peer to increase to 1. And how we can do that? So we're gonna run another node with the same Parachain template node binary, and in the dev mode as well. But here we have the Bob as the account. The port gonna be 30234, different from 30233, and the RPC port gonna be 9945. And after running that, you're gonna say it's running the node name Bob with the role the authority. Then here is also initialize the genesis block and file and initialize the local node identity. And as you can see, the Relaychain is already have 1 peer connect to the Relaychain. Let's check if this successfully run by using the substrate portals. And as you can see right here, we already have our node running at the port 9944. So this is gonna be the node RPC port of Alice, as I remember correctly. And in the network, when you go to the Explorer, you see that there's no block generated. There's only like the Genesis block that initialize all the necessary state for the that we specify in the transspec. And also like, when you check the collators, you're gonna see like two nodes like Bob and the Alice. Okay, so now we're gonna go back to the official documentations. So the next step would be like reserve a unique identifier. So every parachain must reserve a unique identifier, the para ID, and that enables like, it to connect to its specific relay chain. So each relay chain like manage all like set up unique identifier for the parachain that connect to it. The identifier is referred to as a para ID. Because the same identifier can be used to identify a slot occupied by a parachain or to identify a slot occupied by a parachain. And you should note that you must have an account with sufficient funds to reserve a slot on a relay chain. You can determine the number of tokens as specific relay chain required by checking the para deposit configuration in the para register palette for that relay chain. For example, like Rococo requires 5 ROC, the native token of Rococo, to reserve the identifier. And here, because I don't have any relay chain node running right now, so we're gonna follow the guide. And to reserve the parachain identifier, you're gonna validate your local relay chain validator are running. Open the Polkadot substrate portal in the browser and connect a local relay chain node. Parachain tab that you can discover on the parachain running, and it's also like their unique identifier that you can see right here. He's like asset hub has 1000, bridge hub has 1002, people chain has like 1004, and for example like you have Zygai battery like have like 2101, and here's like some unique identifier that you can see. So how can we reserve the unique identifier for our parachain? So to reserve the parachain ID in the same network tab, you're gonna find like the parachain right here. When you click on it, you're gonna find like all the parachain running. And you may wonder like what is it the parachain? So a parachain is a pace as you go parachain. So instead the parachains have to win the candlestick oceans to get the 2-year lease. You need like a more like economic optimized to deploy parachain, right? And that is a parachain. And the parachain like open up the parachain paradigm, and it's lowering the barrier to gaining the benefit of shared security and connectivity. Parachain like help you to onboard the parachain easier. And Polkadot is now even more accessible to projects that may not have the capital to secure dedicated parachain slot. And get the parachain slot for 2 years lease sometimes it's unnecessary. Who knows that like for a new parachain, how can you sustain for 2 years if like maybe like next year or like next 6 months your parachain model is already level and you no longer need that. Like all the computations that you receive and also like pay for it, you no longer need that. So if you have the demand, you use it and you pay for it, pay as you go, similar to the model that like Amazon Web Service. Why you need to reserve the parachain ID and why it must be in the parachain. So right here, when you reserve the parachain ID, it's required to deposit up to like 100 parcel token, native token of parcel relation network. And where you can get like this 100 parcel token. So we're gonna go to the Polkadot faucet. Here I have the faucet choosing the network parcel with the chain like parcel relay. And here it's asked me for the parcel address. So I'm gonna go to my wallet, and right here I'm gonna search for like parcel testnet. Here I'm using like sub wallet, so all the wallet might have like different interface, but I think like it's not hard to copy this address. So I go to like parcel, and then I copy the address. And when I copy the address, I pass to the faucet and then verify I'm not a go bot and get some parcel, waiting for a while, and then it's gonna send some parcel to your network. Remember that it's gonna take up to like 6 seconds for the relation to send that to your wallet. And here you can see it successfully sent the parcel to your address. And when you come back, we can simply go to the account. And then we see our wallet right here. So my wallet currently have 189. The faucet already airdrop me like 100% native token. I go back to the network, parachain, and then the parachain, and I click on the parachain ID, para ID to reserve this ID for the parachain. I sign submit, and then approve. Waiting for a while, and you're gonna see it's broadcasting this extrinsic over the network. Waiting up a bit, and then you can see like this system extrinsic success. And it's already like reserved the another parachain. When you click on the parachain, it's actually 4,565. So after you own a parachain, you can click on the parachain, choosing the parachain ID, and then like deploy the code of the Parachain. It's also like ask for the initial state of the Parachain, and we're gonna learn like where we can get these code and the initial state and how you can submit that to have the Paratest running. And after reserving the Parachain ID successfully, then we'll go back to the official documentation, and the next step would be modify the default chain specifications. First step would be like generate the plain text chain spec for the Parachain template node by running the following command. And we go back to our terminal. Now I don't think like we need the extra node anymore. In this chain spec, after having this node, we're gonna like run a few commands. So after reserving the Parachain ID on the Polkadot testnet network, we're gonna like want to modify the default chain specification and then like connect our local Relaychain to that Polkadot testnet. So to register your Parachain with the Relaychain, you must like modify the default chain spec to use the Parachain identifier you have reserved. So here like you generate the plain text chain specification for the Parachain template node by running the following command. So this command gonna using the command like build spec, disable the default boot node, and then like you specify the path. Go back to our terminal. I also like have the release the binary of the Parachain template node right here. I'm gonna use the command build spec, and this command gonna use this disable default boot node and Parachain spec JSONs. After running that, you're gonna see the file like Parachain spec JSONs. And then you also like want the raw version of that. But before we having that, we also like want to replace the Parachain ID in the chain spec. Now I'm gonna like edit the Parachain chain spec. Here I'm using like Vim editor to edit that. And what is our Parachain ID? On substrate portals, it's sold at like 4,565. So we just copy that and then add that to our terminals 4004565. Then there also the another Parachain ID right here in the Parachain info 4565 again. After having that, we're gonna call to our binary again, Parachain template node, build a spec. But here instead of like building the chain spec JSONs, we're gonna build the raw version of that from the provided chain spec. Running the command, and then you're gonna have like the file generated here. So what we have in that Parachain chain spec, raw. As you can see right here, this is like the raw version of the chain spec. It also have all the information that we specify. Now the next part would be like repair the Parachain collator. So here we export the WebAssembly runtime to the Parachain. It's gonna use the command like export Genesis WebAssembly, and we're gonna specify the target, release, Parachain template node, export, Genesis WebAssembly, chain Parachain chain spec, then enter. Then you have like this file generated. This one is the WebAssembly hexadecimal code of the Parachain. Then we also like want the Genesis state. Genesis state, then enter that, and then you have initializing Genesis block state with the header hash and the state right here, the initial state of the Parachain. Okay, so after having all the needed information, what do we do then? We want to run the collator node, and then that collator node gonna connect to our Relaychain. So instead of like following the tutorial, I'm gonna also have my own command right here. I'm gonna specify the target release Parachain template node, Alice account as the collator, force authoring, this mode like authoring the block. Then like we specify the chain spec that we generated, and also execution is WAMS, and here this chain again is gonna be the Relaychain. I already like downloaded the parcel raw JSONs, and you may wonder like where you can get the chain spec of the parcel testnet, right? So you're gonna go to the parcel network, parcel chain spec, and right here you're gonna find all the chain spec of the parcel network. So you have like parcel raw JSON. I already downloaded it, and then I specified here with the port like 30343 for my collator, and then the RPC port gonna be like the RPC port of the collator as well, port, and running that you're gonna have the node running. And as you can see, like our Parachain collider node is already joined the network, but it doesn't like find any peer yet. But right here it's also like participate and see the state, like finalize election route, starting phase. And right here, like I already like submitted the Parachain web assembly and also the Parachain genesis state that we generated a few minutes ago. Here like, is request for like 3,245 reserve deposit for registered Parachain, and right now is I don't have like much amount of token. Throughout the videos, you can see like to set up your local network it takes a lot of effort, and you have to run a bunch of commands to have your local network running. But like with PopCY, I also like want to introduce one of the features of PopCY is running a local relation network. So with PopCY, you can like pop up, and here when you run like pop up, it's gonna ask you, you have the command to launch a local network. So what happens if you like run like pop up Parachain? It's gonna ask you to specify the file. And this file right here is actually called network.tom, and you might wonder like what we have in the network.tom. So check it out, like in the network.tom you have like the Relaychain, and also you can like specify the chain as a local local, the Relaychain node as the validator, like we have like Alice, also like have another Relaychain node called Bob. So what happens if I also like have another Relaychain node called like Charlie? And I think that it's also like possible to do that. The file right here is actually the config file of the tool in Polkadot ecosystem called ZombieNet. And for the Parachain, we're gonna specify the ID 2000 with the default command to the Parachain template node that we already built, and the name of the Parachain. So we can also like call it like OpenGuild. And when you run the command pop-up Parachain, it's gonna ask you like would you like to source them automatically now, and I'm gonna source them automatically like the Polkadot like v1.1.14.0. This is similar to like when you install the Polkadot SDK and then like compiling the node, but like it's actually like faster because it doesn't like compile the whole code base, but only the necessary binary for running the local Relaychain. So after like you running that command, you can see that the network launched successfully, and you have like the local running here, and also like with the Alice, Bob, and Charlie are 3 validators participate to our network. Then you have like the local testnet 2000, which is our Parachain called OpenGuild, and you through like the Explorer, you can also like, click on it, and then it's open the Explorer that you can interact with your blockchain. So now we're gonna visit one of the validator node of the Relaychain, and you can see it right now it's like the number of best block of the Relaychain is already 9, and also like 6 finalized block. Let's check the network a bit. We go to the network, so the Parachain. So we have like our Parachain 2000 that appear right here. This is the Parachain that we register. It's also the Parachain OpenGuild. That is how you actually can use like PopCY to launch a local network in just one single command, compared with like all the command like running the collider node and also like local relation network. And that's how amazing like and best user experience of local PopCY. And that's pretty much all the content that we have in this video about like building a Parachain and also like connect other Parachain to the local relation node.